Hello, welcome to Tube Talk. I am Steve Dotto. I'm glad you're joining us for this second installment of my conversations with successful YouTube publishers. Today we've got a young man who has carved out a great niche for himself on YouTube. It's Linus Tech Tips. Linus Sebastian is my guest. He will be talking to us today about building his channel. Now, as you can probably glean from the title, his tech tip channel is all about technology. He caters to people who want to build their own computers, who want to upgrade their computers, to gamers who want to expand their abilities, people who are looking for the ultimate as far as high performance computing hardware and software, primarily in the hardware space. But not just relying on his YouTube channel. Linus also has a second YouTube channel which deals a lot more in the how-to world and in the educational world. Plus, they do a weekly webcast show called The WAN Show, which does very well. I've been a guest on it, and it is a rocking show. He does it every Friday evening to 20, 30, 40,000, up to 80,000 people, I think, they have online watching it at any one time. So they can really do well with this. He really does well reaching out to his audience. So we're going to begin our conversation talking about the genesis of the show of Linus Tech Tips with Linus Sebastian.
CPU. As always, our configuration starts at the heart with the CPU. Actually, this is an APU. So a traditional CPU has general processing cores built into it that communicate with your system memory and do most of the things that
Linus is kind of built almost at the beginning, I think it would be fair to say, an accidental empire, but he saw opportunity and seized it. He you grew up in the Vancouver area, didn't you, Linus?
Yeah, that's right. Maple Ridge boy.
You grew up watching Dotto on Data, I bet.
Wow, this is awkward. I didn't really have TV. So
okay.
I had nothing. I actually didn't get into computers until I was pretty much in high school.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's cool. But you ended up working for a computer store where you were a buyer for it, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I started out as a retail sales guy and then made my way up the ranks until I was a product manager and then finally a category manager before I ended up leaving.
And one of the things that they thought partway along the way, was it your idea, was it their idea, saying, you know what, we should do some videos, that YouTube thing might be good. And this was, how long ago? This was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
It was about 5 years ago,
okay,
actually.
Only that.
Feels like forever ago, but it was totally not my idea. I had never, beyond the mandatory drama class in grade 8 for 1/3 of a semester, I had never had any time in front of a camera. I had never had any time on a stage. I had never really been in the public eye in any way, shape, or form, and I was the only person in the company that was passionate enough about the technology for them to kind of go, okay, well, we want to do these videos. Who the heck are we going to put in front of the camera? And they came up with me.
And so the videos that you started with were basic unboxing videos?
We actually started with stuff that was more complicated, believe it or not. And that was what ultimately led to the simple unboxing format, because what we were doing at the beginning was these guides that involved a couple days of editing and involved a lot of preparation. And when we'd sit down to shoot one, it would take us, 6 to 8 to 10 hours because neither me nor the mysterious person known as the NCIX cameraman knew anything about any of this stuff. So we started out trying to do things like, one of the early videos was building a good enough gaming PC, or like a value optimized gaming PC. We did how to upgrade your graphics card. The very first video was a showcase of a heatsink where we showed all the ins and outs, performance, everything that comes with it, how to install it, all that kind of stuff.
So you were doing full-on tutorials.
Yes, that was how we started. That's where that's where the Tech Tips name came from. They were supposed to be tech tips, not unboxings.
Okay. And so it grew in popularity, and I imagine also one of the things that probably helped grow it at the beginning was there was probably controversy, because one of the thing about your community, which is the gaming community, is there's no shortage of opinion from the great unwashed.
Absolutely not. I think the biggest differentiator for us at the beginning was there wasn't really much quality content on YouTube yet. And I think differentiating yourself with quality is phenomenally important. And then the other thing was that because YouTube wasn't really even monetized yet, there was no incentive for people to spend their own money to get into it. So because we had access to all the computer hardware we wanted for free, because we were working for a store, we were able to spend the time because we had real paychecks that could support us while we piddled about making internet videos. And we had all the hardware we needed. So we had a recipe for success because we had something that was different than what other people were doing.
So what was the first feeling of success? So you started to post the video. So take me back to kind of the beginning when you started to have a tickling somewhere in your brain that this could end up being, that there was more to this than you probably were thinking at the start.
You know what? I think the biggest thing that encouraged me at the beginning was, however little of it there must have been, the positive feedback from our users and the growth. As a product manager, I'm incentivized not necessarily by how many dollars of widgets I could sell, but I'm incentivized by how much I can grow the business. So the mindset that I've always been in is growth. So it's not necessarily about, I mean, in the early days when we first got approved as a YouTube partner, that was cool. That was really exciting. Wow, YouTube wants to be a partner with us. That's amazing. When we first got approved as a YouTube partner, I think the first couple of months, the total payout was on the order of like dollars, like not tens of dollars, like dollars. But that many dollars was infinitely more than before. And then when we could take that the following month, and by listening to our users and getting great feedback from them, and we could double it. And instead of $7, we could get $14. And then if the next month we could get $28, these are still, I mean, on a monthly scale, we're talking very small amounts of money. But seeing that growth was where I started to realize that if we could keep it up, if there wasn't a finite number of people who are interested in tech videos, which there are, but for practical purposes, there really aren't, and we could differentiate ourselves, maybe there's some potential here.
And that's the exciting thing about it, is there's such a vast opportunity for connecting. And you know, when I think about YouTube publishers, when I hear them talk about competition, you know, I trying to identify who their competition is, I question whether or not anybody online really has competition, because the nature of this beast is, if somebody watches your channel, I almost guarantee you they're watching what you might consider to be your competitors' channels as 100%. Well. It's not an either or. It's you have an appetite for the content. You devour as much of it as you can.
Absolutely, that's 100% true. And the number of people who jump straight from Newegg TV's live stream over to my live cast, and then because Logan from Tech Syndicate usually uploads his weekly The Tech, which is about anywhere from half an hour to over an hour. He usually uploads on Fridays while I'm streaming. People jump from my stream and they go watch The Tech. The appetite is insatiable. And
so you're seeing the beginning, the germination of a community. You're developing your chops. It's awesome to have somebody paying you while you're developing your online chops and developing a style and developing a comfort in front of the camera. And then at what point did you guys make the determination of doing volume? And I'm not going to say over quality, because you still do quality video, but over the detail-oriented tutorials.
So I'll be the first to admit that the early videos on Linus Tech Tips, so Linus Tech Tips is actually a separate channel from the NCIX Tech Tips one that I did my original videos on, and there is no question that the entire point, the entire creation process for Linus Tech Tips was to reduce the quality and increase the volume. That was all we were trying to do, because we had so many manufacturers coming to us and saying, we want you guys to make your Tech Tips videos about our stuff. And we kind of went, well, crap, we can only make like 3 or 4 of these a month.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're too busy.
So what were the numbers that were catching their attention? Can you remember how many views you were getting at that point?
Oh, it wasn't a ton. I mean, it would be hundreds or thousands, but not tens of thousands. In fact, it's funny because I was talking about being excited by growth, right? And I've always been equally excited about the numbers that I've seen throughout my YouTube career. And it baffles me sometimes that I was ever excited about the numbers that those old videos had when I go back and look at them and realize those weren't very good numbers.
That's an interesting kind of conundrum, is what represents success to a YouTube publisher? Because I know, well, my channel is quite a bit behind yours. You're just you're closing in on 800,000 subscribers now, right?
We're around 740,000 right now.
Okay. And so I'm at like 20,000. So, but I still get excited every time I pass a 0 milestone, as I imagine you do every time you still pass a 0 milestone.
Absolutely. You have to. I mean, if you don't have something to make you get out of bed in the morning about this whole YouTube thing, it is a grind.
But the bottom line is, even at 20,000 subscribers, put 20,000 people in an arena, that's a big whack of people. And I think YouTube publishers have to respect that that each individual that they're talking to represents one of their customers, one of their tribe. So the numbers almost become irrelevant other than bottom line numbers, because you want to do as good a job if you have 20 or 30,000 subscribers as if you have 2 or 300,000 or 2 or 3 million. As far as the effort that you put into your product that you're producing, you might have a few extra employees, you might have a few extra tools if you're at the higher threshold, but your effort level, your content level should be the same.
Absolutely. So we didn't know that at the beginning. So we came up with this Linus Tech Tips idea because everyone was coming to us because we were one of the only retailers doing video content to go along with pictures and all that kind of stuff. And they came to us, they said, well, we want more videos. And we went, well, we can't produce more videos because there's so much work. And the solution at the time, because we weren't making any money on making them, was, okay, let's come up with a new format. This unboxing thing is popular. Let's start doing like unboxings, because I know enough about most, motherboards or CPUs just based on the research and work that I was already doing on them to talk intelligently about them for about 5 or 7 minutes while I take it out of the box and show you all the accessories that come with it. So Linus Tech Tips started out as cheap video merchandising.
So what was the difference as far as production speed for you? You went from 4 to 5 a month to what sort of volume?
My highest quota ever when Linus Tech Tips was completely volume focused was 45 per month.
Wow.
And I would hit that quota regularly.
Holy cow. That's a lot of videos. Well, you know something though? When I think about a TV show that I would have produced, I produced an average of about 6 demos per show. So in a season there would have been 70, around 80 demos, I guess, probably, by the time it was all said and done. And we produced that over about a 2-month period. So it's a similar workload, but I had a whole team that worked with me to produce that. So you were doing that on a relentless basis. I could set up and do it for 2 months. You were doing it month after month. We have plenty more with Linus Sebastian coming up in just a few moments. But before we do that, a few words from our sponsors. Before we actually do words from our sponsors, take a look below this video, and if you're enjoying this interview with Linus Sebastian, and I hope you are, please give us a like. We appreciate the support. While you're down there, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, click on subscribe. That way you'll get all of our videos as soon as they're released. We're going to get back to more with Linus, but before that, some words from our sponsors, who just happen to be AdSense. When was it that it suddenly became a valuable commodity that people started looking at it, and you started looking at it as, wait a minute, this is something that I have to take a look at as a career option?
Well, I never really thought about it that way until I got pretty close to the end of my time at NCIX. And when I looked at it then, I realized that the money coming in to the YouTube channel was as much as I was being paid as a salary. So if I could figure out how to do this, then I could, I saw the potential. I saw how I could make a living doing it.
Path to independence. And it's really encouraging for somebody to have those metrics to look at. So many people enter the YouTube publishing game without an idea of what the numbers really look like, because they're hard to find.
We're not allowed to talk about them. We cannot talk about how much Google AdSense pays me. I can talk about some of my other revenue streams, but not Google AdSense.
Fair enough. But at any rate, the fact that you could see that the value was there and that you weren't being irresponsible by thinking that you could probably make a living at this, that must have been really encouraging. Oh,
absolutely. That was what made me make the decision, was knowing for sure. I'm not a betting man. I don't bet. I only go for a sure thing. And so when I knew it was a sure thing, I went for it.
Okay. So now you had a bit of a split with the company, still on good terms with them. You still helped them out an awful lot with NCIX, and you launched your own venture. So at that point there, what was the transition like when you went into as an independent publisher as opposed to having a corporate entity behind you?
Honestly, not as many things changed as I would have thought would. I mean, our process, we didn't have space. We were filming out of my garage. I didn't have quite the same level of access to hardware as I did before, although it wasn't bad because we were quite well established with a big subscriber base already. I think we were around 200,000 at the time. So it wasn't that hard to get access to product. But beyond that, I didn't want it to change too much, at least not immediately, because I didn't want to alienate my community. I mean, who had followed me and built me up to that point.
Now, did you have the channel when you moved across, or did you have to reestablish the channel?
I had the channel.
Oh.
So that was part of the negotiation with NCIX. That is part of why I'm still on very good terms with them. We came to an agreement that I wouldn't do certain things and they would do certain things. And there's actually a very complicated, about 6-page document of how our relationship works that
allowed you to do that.
Me having the channel.
Well, and that was what you needed, because then you aren't starting from scratch.
That's right. And they were really, really cool about it. I respect NCIX. I was in negotiations with the president of NCIX himself about the whole thing, and he's a fantastic guy, and without him, I couldn't be where I am today.
Just out of curiosity, if it had gone south and you had to start from scratch, how difficult would that have been?
Oh, it would have been nearly impossible.
Do you think so?
I think in the ecosystem that exists now versus when I was starting, I'm not good enough. There are guys that will be breakout hits and will have a great viral idea, but in order to start up again, the amount of hours that I would have to put into it, and this was at a time when I was just starting a young family. Yes. And like the hours I put in now are crazy, but the hours I would have had to put in unpaid to start up again, I don't know that I would have been able to handle it. And I'm not trying to be discouraging to anyone who does want to take a crack at it. It's just, for me, I probably would have gone and gotten a McJob instead. And because of my reputation in the computer industry, I wouldn't have had trouble. I mean, honestly, even though I did have the channel, you know, I needed employees in order to make it run, and the amount that I could afford to pay myself was probably about 1/3 of what I could have made last year. If I had just gone and gotten a job for, I don't know, Western Digital or Newegg or something like that.
And let's just put this into context now. How many years are you into the independent Linus Tech Tips?
1 year and 3 months.
1 year and 3 months. And what were your numbers when you started as far as your subscriber base?
So subscriber base is not really the number that I look at.
Okay.
So I'll explain why.
Please, yeah.
But my subscriber base was around 200,000, and now we're sitting around 740,000. But that's not the number that's important. To me, what's important is how engaged the new viewers are. Are they clicking the subscribe button? So I look at how many views you're getting then as a secondary metric. So we're doing about 60% more views than we used to, 70% maybe. But more importantly, I look at how many new people are clicking that subscribe button. How engaged are the new people who are watching your content? And as far as that metric is concerned, a year and a half ago, we were sitting around 300 to 400 new subscribers per day. And in the last month, I think we were doing around 1,100, but we've been as high as around 1,400, 1,500 during Q4 last year, which is a bit of a busier season for tech gadget shoppers.
New subscribers per day?
Per day.
Okay.
That's the number I look at. That is my ultimate measure of the health of the channel, is new subscribers per day and how many of the total subscribers are watching each video. Like, something that a lot of people don't realize is that even though I have 700,000 subscribers, most of those people, about 90% of them, are not watching most of the videos, because you can see how many of them are watching each video. So I look at that and I go, ugh, that's kind of ugly. Whereas when you look at my secondary channel, which is a channel I have a lot of hope for, and one that I think will ultimately be more successful than Linus Tech Tips, Tech Quickie, that one's got around 175,000 subscribers, but gets around 60 to 70,000 views per video. So those subscribers are much more engaged, and that's a really important measure of a channel's health as well.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about audience engagement and the things that you're trying to do to engage the audience that you have. Now, your audience is a fairly unique audience. Would it be fair to characterize them as the what do they call them, the Twitch audience, the ones that are watching the gaming videos primarily and that sort of stuff?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think our audience is actually divided up in a big way. We have the people who watch the YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
We have the people who watch WAN Show, and there's a fair bit of overlap, but not as much as you might think. And then we have the people who are part of our community on our forum website. And a lot of the people, like, there's a lot of cross pollination. I'm not going to pretend that there isn't.
Let's just pull
But
back. Let's just pull back for a second. So your YouTube channel is primarily all of your unboxing videos and that sort of stuff. The WAN Show that you're talking about is quite a successful weekly live webcast that you do that has really great traction. I was a guest on it a while back, and I was amazed with the amount of interaction there was. So
Yep.
you do that every Friday evening, and it's an hour to 2 hours, kind of a loose format,
yes.
and then you call that the WAN Show.
Yeah.
And that must take a lot of technical resources to put that together, because it looks like it's a lot of effort.
Well, yeah, I'm sitting in front of the setup that we have for it, but we've got a streaming PC, we've got our monitor for making sure that everything that's supposed to be happening is happening. We used to do it with just our regular camera that we used to film everything else because we only owned one camera. So we used to do it with that, and we would bring all the pieces into place every Friday, and we would always have technical difficulties because there were
'Cause you had to
challenges.
set it up.
Whereas now we have a separate piece of every single piece of equipment that's involved in putting on the WAN Show that just lives in here. So it's much easier now. You got to spend money, right? So there's a camera, a tripod, an audio mixer, an audio compressor, a PC, and none of that stuff ever moves. This microphone above me that I'm not actually using right now because it's not working with our VoIP chat system right now, it lives here. It doesn't move.
Okay, so now we've got these three properties, these three primary thrusts. Now, what do you do besides creating good, compelling content as far as trying to engage that audience? Because with 700,000 subscribers and that many people involved, you can't reach out and have a conversation with all of your followers.
I have a very simple policy, and my policy is I do what I can. So when someone reaches out to me with a cookie cutter question that anyone could answer, what I'll do is I will send them a template email response, but they do get a response usually that says, hey, we created LinusTechTips.com. This is a great community where you can go and ask that question. You'll get a great answer, but I don't have to deal with it personally.
Okay. So
If there is something that's more of a personal question for me and it's something that I'm comfortable answering, I try to reply to them, whether it's on Twitter or through a private message on my inbox on our forum. But I do what I can, and what I can't do is support every single platform. So I don't reply to private messages on Facebook, for example. It says right on my Facebook page, I don't reply to them. Twitter is much more digestible for me because it's 140 characters and I can do it when I'm on the go. So I just kind of set some rules for myself. I try to read almost everything. And then when I feel compelled to, I reply. And that's the best I can do.
Now, one of the things I notice about your community is they aren't shy about sharing their. They're a little more confrontational than I'd say a lot of YouTube communities or a lot of online communities might be. In fact, I remember one of the parts of the conversation when I was a guest on your show was just after YouTube had changed the rules to require some degree stripping away anonymity from YouTube comments, where it has to be attached to the Google Plus profile. And me being 55 goes, that's awesome. I think that's great. We should be responsible. And your community was going, oh, you idiot. And they were calling me every name under the sun. And you almost wanted to come through the camera and throttle me because they liked that edgy nature. Is that a tightrope that you walk? Is that a generational thing that you think that most YouTube publishers would probably not be able to handle as effortlessly as you do?
If anything, I'd say our community is relatively easy to deal with. I've seen many other YouTube communities that are nearly impossible to reason with. Our guys are pretty good, and I think that part of the reason that they're willing to engage with us in a way that is more constructive. I mean, part of the issue that time was that I wasn't telling them, hey, don't. I wanted to see the interaction.
Oh yeah, I liked it. I thought it was awesome.
Was great.
Yeah,
I thought it was great. Whereas if we say like, hey, tell us how you feel about this, and like, please keep cool about it, they do a great job of that. Whereas a lot of communities, really, you can't get that kind of one-on-one interaction with people and have them stay civil. So I actually think our community is fantastic that way, but I think that you also have to be in sort of to answer your question, I think to be an internet personality, you have to have realistic expectations about how people are going to treat you, because everything you do is under so much scrutiny. I mean, there are people who will watch our videos frame by frame to find the mistakes that we made that we didn't even see.
Yeah, and they relish in sharing that with you.
But I don't mind, because we're one of the only channels, maybe the only channel on all of YouTube, where our standard outro says, like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, because we value your feedback, and we really do. And I think that's one of the reasons that our community is willing to listen to us, because they feel like we're listening too, and we are.
Let's change channels and let's talk business for a little bit, because you've done so you started out seeing the numbers in AdSense as a YouTube partner that the channel was earning when you were under the umbrella of NCIX, and so you moved on, built your channel. Did you stay with AdSense? Did you join a multi-ad network? And what did you do about as far as growing revenue by bringing on some outside sponsors?
I did join a multi-channel network, but not because I thought it was going to make me rich. They make a lot of claims. Most of them are basically unfounded with respect to how much they can drive your CPMs, or that is how many dollars you're getting per million views or million impressions. But I didn't have any delusions about how well that was going to work out. I joined a multi-channel network because YouTube's policies, if you are a direct YouTube partner, restrict you from running certain types of in-content advertising on your own if it conflicts with YouTube's own advertising. So I found a multi-channel network that didn't give two craps what I did, and partnered with them so that I would be under their umbrella rather than YouTube's, which was a big part of our strategy early on, to branch out and find our own sponsors and then integrate that into our content. Yes, we did that in a big way. So
that is an exciting way to approach it, because it allowed you to grow your revenue completely independently from the AdSense or from the kind of the big pool of advertising,
from the 45% YouTube cut.
Yeah, they take a large chunk of that money as well, don't they? Yeah. So how did you? Now the technology isn't in place to do an insertion of those ads, unless I'm missing something. You had to hard code those ads into your content, did you not?
That's right.
Okay, and did that cause you any issues technically, or any concerns about how you brokered the deal, or do you consider the shelf life of your products to be short enough that it would live for that it was a fair deal on both sides? Because you've got, if that relationship with the sponsor ended, you've got inventory on your channel with somebody who you don't have a relationship with anymore.
That's right. I mean, the reason that it was not as challenging as you'd think, because I play things pretty loosey-goosey as far as, how many ad impressions are you paying for versus how many am I delivering. I had to just come up with a flat rate, and I basically went, okay, well, on average our videos get 30,000 views, so pay this much per spot, and we'll put it on the videos, and it should pretty much average out. Overall, the channel's growing, so if I promise you we can deliver what we did a month ago, then next month we can probably deliver a little bit more, and you'll be happy with it. And I also work with our advertisers to focus on pre-roll advertising that will make at least an ounce of sense 6 months or a year down the line. We've done some stuff that just became completely irrelevant over time, like certain like an Intel promotion where they were giving away a snowboard. We talked about that. I'm just like, okay, well, this won't be that great later on down the road, whereas now we'll take a product or even a category like what we've done with Corsair. Corsair Vengeance gaming peripherals are a great option for, a value conscious and yet, feature conscious gamer who wants to get the most. Okay. So you focus on a message that's more general, and that way I think they're getting a better value out of it, and I'm getting a better value out of it because I don't have these weird irrelevant pre-rolls sitting on top of my videos.
Exactly. Now you've just in your what's the average length of your videos? What do you shoot for?
We shoot for anywhere from 5 minutes to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Which is really long. It's too long.
It isn't that interesting, because those exact words come out of my mouth. They're too long. But it's hard to make them shorter, isn't it?
It is, especially if you're trying to do what we're doing. If we were still trying to do basic product overviews and unboxings, I could probably do 3.5 minutes without too much difficulty. Whereas we are trying to become a much more serious review channel now. And in order to give enough information and enough background and differentiate ourselves from the people who just plain don't know as much or don't have as much time to play with this stuff and test it and spend the time on the video production, if we want to differentiate ourselves against those guys, we just need more time, and our viewers generally accept it, and our viewership is still growing, and I think there is room for longer format content like that, but the YouTube attention span is short, and that's why we have Tech Quickie, which is, like I said, the one that I have more optimism about in the longer term. That one, we target one page of 11-point Calibri font within Microsoft Word, which amounts to, before our sponsor message, about 3.5 to 4 minutes.
Do you script it?
Fully scripted.
But not all of your videos are fully scripted. Just
all of my videos now are fully scripted.
Are they?
Didn't notice, did you?
No, you do a good job. It's so much work to fully script.
Yes, it is.
Why did you make the determination to fully script?
Because we value our viewers' time, and the information density that I can achieve by fully scripting something, even if it's a 10-minute video, even if my target is still 10 minutes, because it used to be 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, the information density, how much I am delivering to my viewer within that amount of time, is so much higher if I script it out.
Excellent point. So do you have a teleprompter set up, or
Yep.
you're working on that? Okay, wow. So you've really tried to move upstream as far as it. So yes. You've taken your popularity base, and you've continuously challenged yourselves to make your product better.
Well, what I was determined to do when I started was not to pay myself as much as I used to make. I was determined to pay myself as much as I could survive on, and then reinvest anything extra into improving our production values, adding more staff, and building our community. And that's what we've done. That's what we've done for the last year and a quarter.
Now you've taken on some cornerstone sponsors. As a publisher, as a person that's producing as much volume as you do, because you produce a new video every day, does that ever get in the way? Is it ever causing you some pause for concern of stepping on your sponsor's toes as you look at different stories and different options? If you have, say, Intel as a sponsor, and there's a really great new groundbreaking chip from somebody else that you would really like to talk about, and you feel that your constituency should hear it, does that ever cause you concern with your sponsor?
Oh, no, I don't give a crap what my sponsors think.
Okay.
I had a great conversation with Corsair not that long ago. I called one of their keyboards, it's a gaming keyboard, I called it a corporate-driven SKU and not enthusiast-designed like I expect from Corsair. And I got an email from them, of course, and they were like, hey, dude. And I was like, well, that's what I think. And they were like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, we're not going to use your review as, we're not going to put your review on the product page, but it's not going to affect our relationship. And
Good.
I'm only willing to work with sponsors who are willing to be cool about me being me and me educating my viewer base about what I actually think.
We will return with more with Linus Sebastian in just a few seconds, but let's take a quick break for some words from our sponsors, the good folks at AdSense. What milestones are you keeping an eye on when your model breaks or when you're going to have to change how you do things? So how big a team do you have now? Is it 4?
I have 4 plus myself, so 5 total.
So you have 5. So what sort of growth could you see reaching before you have to start adding more bodies and adding more positions?
When I have to add bodies will be when I start to add additional hosts beyond myself.
Okay.
And that's going to happen very soon.
Okay. Interesting. Now, is that primarily for your new channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the word Linus in the first one kind of limits the number of hosts that you should have.
Unless
you can find a Linus.
You would think that. But AnandTech, one of the most successful tech sites on the internet, Tom's Hardware, one of the most successful tech sites on the internet, started by dudes named Anand and Tom. So,
Yeah, but Linus is kind of more... Tom's pretty generic. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry could be Tom.
That's true. But Anand?
Well, true that. Yeah, you got me there. Well, my kids are all bugging me saying, hey, Dad, we can just take over for you because it's the Dotto thing. So, but I'm not going to let them because I don't know. I don't want to work with my family. So let's kind of go back to starting days and advice you have for startup publishers? Because I'm sure that you have an awful lot of people come to you asking for advice. So what are the simple pieces of advice that you give to startup YouTube publishers?
If you don't want to do it for free, don't bother.
Okay. So make it passion as opposed to business to start, and then if it grows, then you can reevaluate.
If it's not a labor of love, if you're not enthusiastic about it, the audience is so smart. They're going to pick up on that in 2 seconds. They're going to go, this guy is trying to be the next big YouTuber, doesn't actually care. This guy is a phony, and they will not watch you.
Interesting. Now, last thing I want to ask you about is social networks. So YouTube is, of course, a social network that we all work most closely with. How much importance do you place in your engagement in the other social networks, cross-pollinating, coming back to YouTube, and what strategies do you use in those spaces?
Oh, it's phenomenally important. The thing that I use them for is to improve reach and to improve engagement with the audience, because particularly before the Google Plus integration, YouTube comments were even harder. Actually, they're not really any better, but the YouTube comments are not a great way to engage with people because the way that notifications are set up, I guess that's a little bit better, but I'm at the point now where I get so many of them that I can't really look at it anyway.
And it's confusing getting it back to making sure that the comment gets back to their page properly and stuff.
Yes.
There's a lot of work to do on that
It's
front.
not great.
Yeah.
So Twitter was the one that I first focused on because it was a great way for me to interact with an incredibly large number of people very quickly. And then the other effect that it had was that it helps to spread what you're doing a little bit further, because YouTube plays all kinds of funny games with whether it's delivering a new video to your subscriber or not. So if that subscriber also follows me on Twitter and Facebook and our forum where they can install our Chrome extension and get immediate notifications when we upload anything, if they buy into our ecosystem and engage with us, then there's a much better chance that we can actually get our content to them. So it was a two-way thing. I wanted more feedback from the viewers, and I wanted an easier way to reach them.
I know I said that was the last question, but you just said something that makes me ask you another question, Linus.
That's fine.
The Chrome extension. So fireworks are going off now for me. When you publish a video, you don't just rely on YouTube's native syndication to get the video out, or anything else. So I use a newsletter, I use Facebook, I cross-post to my blog, I do all those things, and they have a certain amount of traction, but they don't necessarily reach my subscriber base. I have to rely on YouTube's syndication there. What do you do there?
So we actually had a fan create a Chrome extension that is tied directly into our forum. So it's tied to their user, they're tied into our community forum user account. And then what happens is you will get a notification in your Chrome browser whenever you get a new private message from another forum member. You can set it up to send you notifications when people reply to your posts. And by default, it is set up to notify you whenever the WAN show goes live and whenever we post a new video.
And did you notice a difference in views immediately when that started to install?
No, not really. I mean, we don't push it that hard because it's unofficial and it's still beta.
Okay.
But we are going to start focusing on it more, and we're going to create an app at some point as well, because it's all about taking control of your relationship with your viewers. That's the most dangerous thing about YouTube, is how hard Google's trying to control the relationship between content creators and their viewers. I used to be able to see an entire list of every single one of my viewers if I was willing to press next page enough times, and I could send a private message to every single one of them if I really wanted to. They've taken away that ability from me, and they have taken their own control over my relationship. So that's why I need to build my community forum. That's why I need to build these social networks with these people so that I can engage with them and reach them. And it's not a replacement for subscribers, because I still have many more subscribers by about tenfold versus any other individual network.
And I like the fact that you differentiate between subscriber and your patrons, the people that really follow you, because the subscriber is not it; it's the person you have a relationship with. But that dialogue that you've just the premise that you just put forward to me about owning your subscriber, owning your audience, that's one of the things that drove me to YouTube from the traditional broadcast world, where as bad as you are painting it on YouTube, which isn't really all that bad, compared to my experiences in the broadcast television world, where I built an audience over 15 years in my case, and the whole time I was doing that, the stroke of a programmer's pen could disenfranchise me from that audience instantly.
Right.
And I had absolutely no engagement. So I consider YouTube to be liberating the fact that I have subscribers that I can actually reach out and touch, that I can have a conversation with, and that I can move into my newsletter list or into some other social forum. Is my dog squeaking his toy bothering you? I don't know why
No,
he's
it's okay.
decided to hang out in here. It'd be interesting to hear if the audio is going through. But as soon as you're recording a show, of course, the dog wants to come in and play with the squeaky toy.
Of course.
But going back to that audience thing, I think it's fascinating that you have the exact same concern with YouTube that I had when I was on network television and trying to find a way to compensate for that. But the internet gives us so many more ways, and your forum seems to be one that really gives you an extra level of engagement with your customers, and gives you a lot of confidence that you can retain them no matter what happens, I imagine.
That's the big thing, is that you need an exit strategy in case YouTube goes completely kablooey.
Yes. So you built a forum. Just out of curiosity, what platform did you build the forum on?
It's built on IP board
Okay.
with a lot of customization.
Okay, well, just something for me to poke around and look at later. Now, you've chosen the forum. Do you also do traditional internet marketing with newsletter and that sort of stuff, or do you let the forum take the place of that?
I let the forum take the place of that. Okay. We could do e-blasts to our forum members. We've never really done it. We've never really done it. We've never done it. It's something that it's not completely impossible, but it's not really on our radar right now.
Well, and the nature of your viewers and stuff might not dictate that it is. But the bottom line is, I always tell everybody, or I'm trying to, as I'm learning and going along, I realize that it's increasingly important not to just trust your audience base to YouTube, but to move them into a media that you have control of. Your forum represents that. For me, I don't have a forum, but I move them into a newsletter list, into a mail list. It gives me the same permanent access to the audience.
That's right.
Good stuff. So that's a great tip. And you know what? I think that we've taken an awful lot of your time. It's late in the evening on Friday. How many shows have you done today, Linus?
Including this one? 6.
Yes. I think that we've taken a lot of your time. You've been generous with it, and I appreciate it. Folks, if you take a look at Linus Tech Tips, definitely subscribe. But don't just subscribe. Watch a few of the videos. If you're a YouTube publisher, get a feel for his style. He's nice and relaxed on air, and he engages with his audience. And I got to tell you, I'm going to look at your videos with a good eye again to see to try and pick up on the fact that you're scripting your demos, because I think that you're doing it as a professional presenter. I got to tell you, I think you're doing a great job with those being scripted the way they are, because it doesn't come across that way. You seem very engaging with your audience, and you've done just a terrific job. And I thank you for sharing your hard-won knowledge with our audience.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Anytime.
That's Linus Sebastian, Linus Tech Tips. Oh man, that's a tongue twister, Linus.
All right, take care, Steve.
Have a good day.
All right.